My first job in a restaurant, 13 years old, was at Jaime's Deli in Marion, Pennsylvania. One of the iconic Philadelphia suburban delis. Still there. Great, great story. I love delis. Fell in love with the whole deli culture. Came to New York in '82, and New York still had a kind of a thriving deli thing going, and then one by one, they closed. And everyone's been reading the deli obituary or trying to write it for the last couple of decades. But there's something interesting happening. There's like a new Deli Renaissance movement where a new generation of kids is taking up this, looking back at the sort of Ashkenazi, Eastern European tradition, saying, how can we do it again, do it as well, or maybe do it better? That's the story today. A great bakery, a couple of amazing bagel places.
That's sesame.
Wonderful, wonderful smoked fish, and Russ and Daughters at the end. 100 years in business, the quintessential Russ and Daughters Cafe. Stay tuned. Deli is what's on the menu. I'm Mike Colameco, industry insider. Been in the business my whole life, and I know what it takes to succeed. Each week we'll take you into real kitchens, filmed in real time. Backstage passes to a day in the life of chefs, restaurateurs, and their teams. The competition's fierce. Careers, life savings, and reputations hang in the balance. These are my people, and this is their passion. And that's what's next on Mike Colameco's Real Food. Bread's Bakery is tucked away mid-block on the south side of East 16th Street, just a few steps from Union Square. This place is easy to miss, but that would be a shame.
This is a Jerusalem baguette.
Step inside and you'll find one of the best bakeries in the city, with an open, working production kitchen out back, pumping out an assortment of fresh rolls, breads, challah, babka, both sweet and savory offerings to eat in or take out all day long. All right, we're backstage here with Uri and Gadi. Guys, thanks for having me in today. Thanks for coming to New York. What an addition. So tell me the story. So investment banker, travels to Israel. Give me the backstory of how this place came to be.
Sure. So I'm a private equity investor. I've been working in the private equity world for a while. Before that, I was in the software business, but always been a huge lover of food, especially food in New York. And as part of my work, I traveled to Israel a lot, and one day came across this incredible bakery in Israel, and the minute I walked in there, I really fell in love. Feeling the power and how the place produces stuff, seeing it all, tasting the product, it was just amazing.
So when did you start? What's your background? When did you start as a baker? You must have started as a kid, like most of us.
And I didn't start as a kid, although I was watching my mom braiding challah at home every Friday, and I didn't know, but I was kind of in love with food and baking, and it took me a while. Went to the university, studied biology, didn't see my future there. My parents are Danish, so I went to Denmark, went to baker school, came back to Israel, worked for many years. It's about 14 years ago, opened a Lechamim bakery in Israel, and started to bake there until met Gadi. They still operate in Israel, same operation as here.
Right.
The same concept what we see in Europe, France, Denmark, a lot of corner bakery, produce, bake, sell at the same place. And this is what we actually wanted to do, and this is why it took us quite a while to find this location, because we were really into not having a small bakery here and the production somewhere out, and to have the whole thing going on right here.
So this is yours. This is the laminate dough.
This is the laminate, yeah. And this belongs to the same family as a croissant, puff pastry.
Right. Rugelach is this sort of iconic Jewish pastry, for want of a better term. What's the backstory to it, and where did you get your idea and how you wanted to do them?
In Israel, like every bakery, it's make Rugelach, and then it's become very commercial, all the supermarket, and it's have like a, I would say like a bad name. It's not something that's together with quality.
All right, get to see Rugelach being made. Ha! Right.
And at one point, 4 or 5 years ago in Israel, I said, okay, I'm gonna make a Rugelach, but I'm gonna make it, give it my version.
So 3 layers.
Funny, when I came to New York, I saw the square one. I didn't know it's a Rugelach. And Israel is exactly
Always
this is the like only way it's a Rugelach look. But I'm gonna come this way here.
And the babka is just off the charts. Talk about that.
So this is also, it's actually in Israel we call it chocolate crunch. It's German, I don't know if, Jewish maybe, or because Jewish was traveling a lot in the world.
The whole Eastern European.
Yeah.
So what's this mix?
This is the hazelnut chocolate mix.
So it's like Nutella. Nutella and chocolate.
Yeah, right.
Semi-sweet?
No, bitter.
Bitter. So it's rolled, split.
To roulade. Now cut. You can start. Let's go. Yeah.
So this is how it's made. I've never seen babka made. And then just a little braid.
Just twist, actually.
Twist.
Yeah? Come.
No, I don't actually. I don't have I'm not wearing a hairnet.
You will get to lick the fingers.
I'm not wearing a hairnet.
The babka was sort of self-selecting product. When we first opened, we had no idea that would particularly be the one product that really sells. We were fortunate enough that Adam Platt, can you put the babka in the best in New York? And the power of print media, we really saw the next day a big difference, and it became the #1 product.
So actually, because I have my Danish roots, Israeli roots, I learned a lot from French, stayed quite a few years in Paris in a bakery, long time in Milan in Italy. So I kind of bring, part of the concept is I brought the best. I'm not just an Israeli bakery place or a Danish, so I bring things from all over. This is actually, you go to school to learn it. Danish open-faced sandwich. It's something you learn in Denmark. It's like being a baker, being a chef.
What's on the base?
It's on the base is 100% rye bread, sliced very thin, a little bit butter, smoked salmon, smoked, what do we have today here? Smoked trout.
Hard-boiled egg,
hard-boiled egg, potato. It's a whole meal. Normally you don't eat it as a sandwich with a hand, you eat it with a fork and knife and some pickles.
So this is like a lunch special that you would do every day?
Every day.
Eat in, take out.
Yeah.
Sorry. The name of it is Bread's Bakery.
Bread's Bakery.
So let's talk about it. Because my first, the one I fell in love with was that 7-grain, that heavy-duty rye bread. But talk about the bread you have, because they're all beautiful, artisanal.
Classic French sourdough, which is actually all natural fermentation. It means we make here our own yeast, our own starter that I started 20 years ago, and we just keep feeding it every day.
Cereal bread, so grainy.
Cereal bread, jabella, olive bread.
You do amazing Danish here. I mean, these are so delicious, these guys. And you even do this great French pastry from Conlon from Bordeaux.
This is actually the marzipan here. This is a Danish specialty. It's called kransekage. Want to try one?
I'm going to try everything. It's so bloody good.
This is one of my favorites.
It's amazing.
And this jam we
I have
make
to have
here.
one. I have to have one. I'm going to join you.
Yeah, because we just made.
I mean, look at this. So you have this
very
color
thin
on the bottom there. So the cookie. This is piped.
Yeah.
And then the jam in the middle.
Sohr rabbit jam that you just actually made yesterday, so you can really feel the jam. It's
amazing. Amazing. Thanks so much for having us in today.
Thank you for coming.
Bread's Bakery, 16th Street off of Union Square. Make it a stop. Place is unbelievable.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to New York.
We looked at the kosher food section and looked at those jars of ugly gefilte fish with
You don't want to eat it, I don't want to eat it, your cat doesn't want to eat it.
It's a sad scene, you know?
Don't know why it took so long for someone to step into the gaping void of artisanal, old world, Eastern European, Ashkenazi, Jewish retail. But Elizabeth Alpern and Jeffrey Yoskowitz finally did just that when they launched Gefilteria a few years back, dedicated to producing quality seasonal specialties, mail order, and at select retail locations around town.
Ashkenazi food has colors and flavor and values freshness and high quality, and so that's where we started. We started with gefilte fish, and we made it sustainably sourced, and we made it look beautiful and kind of redefined what it could be while staying true to tradition.
So we use the bottom layers, whitefish and pike, which are fairly traditional fish, and the top layers where we add our spin, we have salmon and steelhead trout, actually.
Bloody good. The pickles? Classic. I mean, the pickles are everywhere these days. So what have you done here?
Yes.
You know, I actually learned on an organic farm the art of natural fermentation, how to make a good sour pickle, the kind you'd want in the deli. And it's actually also a probiotic food.
Classic. And pickling is just a great way to preserve. That's the origin
the harvest
of it. You have summer, you have spring, you have fall. In the winter, you're not eating anything unless you learn to pickle it and preserve it.
Exactly. Go to the farmer's market.
Oh, these are great.
You get that crunch, you get that effervescence with naturally fermented pickles that you just don't get with a vinegar pickle.
Good. This is
and
really good.
you feel that they're alive. It's so good. One of our biggest things is that You don't have to just eat these foods on the holidays, and that's a big difference. People think these are only foods that you eat when it's the fall and it's Rosh Hashanah, when it's the spring, when it's Passover. But these are everyday foods, and a lot of what being playful about is about integrating these foods into your everyday life. Why can't you eat a pickled dilly bean?
The answer is
And
you
did.
should, period, done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our basic mix is just high gluten flour, water, malt, and salt. Very classic, very traditional.
But sometimes with bagels, you don't really, I don't know, it's never, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna open a bagel shop. And it was always more of like a hobby food or like a staple food and necessity. And I've lived in this neighborhood for a really long time, and it's a very residential neighborhood. And I feel like bagel's a very residential food. You take it home on a Sunday and just like hang around in your pajamas. And I just found that this neighborhood was missing that, and I live in it, and I might as well open up a bagel store.
You got this monster bagel mixing machine. Where'd this thing come from? The Bagel Mafia? The Jersey Bagel Mafia?
Yeah, I guess like the Jersey Jewish Bagel Mafia. It's actually the family that built our oven. They have the access to a lot of bagel. This is specific bagel equipment. It's made for very high gluten dough because it has...
The work that has to be super strong.
Exactly.
What's this gentleman's name?
Jack.
Jack. Where'd you get Jack?
Jack is our first employee. I met him very early on, about 2 or 3 months before we opened the bagel store, and he really understands the science of weather and
Yeah, because baking changes every day. The flour changes, the moisture content, the air.
the way the walk-in's open right now.
Right.
He really cares for the bagels and takes care of them, and if people open his walk-in, he's like, get away, so.
And you're doing classic, so it's there's yeast in the dough. It's obviously proofed. It's poached momentarily before it gets baked,
Yeah.
which is what gives it that, like pretzels, gives it that shiny kind of look on the outside, that texture. Tell me about your background. Like, was an Italian girl from wherever opening up a bagel store in Little Italy? So you tell me how this happened.
It's a very good question, actually. So I'm actually half Jewish and half Italian.
Aha.
So growing up, I mean, this is the type of food that I always grew up with. Going to the bagel store with my father is like one of the first memories that like I ever had with really food.
I'm not going to leave Baz Bagels without having the owner's favorite and the one she always recommends for me, which is lox on an everything pumpernickel with a schmear and an onion. There's no delicate way to bite a bagel on camera and look good, so I'm not going to try it. Bear with me. One of the most popular foods in America, right? And for good reason. Delicious. So I'm outside of Mile End on Bond Street with Noah Bernamoff, who I first met, I guess 3 or 4 seasons ago when you just opened up in Brooklyn. And you had this wonderful take on Jewish-style delis. You were just beginning to percolate, and since then you've blown up. Talk about that, talk about what you're doing, what you're representing in that tradition.
My goal was to bring Jewish deli into the modern world in a sense. I was watching deli disappear in front of my eyes, in front of a lot of people's eyes, and I thought to myself, what's going on here? Why is this happening? Is it just because people don't want to eat this food anymore? Or maybe we're just not presenting it in a way that's actually relevant to people that go out and eat in New York City anymore. And so what we started doing was thinking about how we move the tradition of Jewish deli forward. And to me, the answer was actually taking it much, much further back than where we were, say, in the last 50 years. So we care about every element that goes into the smoked meat, and I think it shows. You know, we put a lot of effort into creating it. It costs us a lot of money, a lot of additional money to take the time and the space to do what we do. We're not a touristy restaurant. We're about appealing to our neighbors and to especially young people who perhaps either have very distant memories or very kind of negative or poor memories of what it means to eat at a Jewish deli, watery soup, you know, bland pickles.
Just like generic anything,
you know,
bad Italian food, bad Chinese food, it's all the same.
Exactly. So I'm young, our customers are young, our neighborhood is relatively young. In Brooklyn, it's the same, very similar demographic. And so, that's really our goal here is to reintroduce, remind people that this is a real food, it's a real culture. Jewish food traditions are being lost, and it's up to us to do something about it.
Who can say no to this? So smoky, so tender, so delicious, hand cut. So smoky. This is the smokiest, well, I guess that's why they call it smoked meat. One more bite. This is insane. This is so good. All right, I'm here with Diana at Black Seed on Elizabeth, and so this is originally when Myland opened. Was he bringing the bagels in from Canada, or were you baking them?
Yeah, no, for the first, I want to say the first maybe 4 or 5 months.
Shipping them down.
Yeah, and he actually has a great friend slash partner, Joel, who would literally drive them down every other day.
What's the difference between a Montreal style bagel and a classic New York style bagel?
Yeah, of course. So I think the first obvious thing is the size, right?
Yep.
So
Seems smaller.
yeah, exactly.
Thinner and smaller.
Yeah, I almost want to say they're like 50% smaller, especially when you compare them side by side. And then also the density. The Montreal bagel is almost more on the pretzel end rather than a soft roll with a hole in it. Montreal uses honey water, and also, like for instance, we use honey in the dough, so you really get that sweetness incorporated in it. And also, I guess the biggest factor is the wood oven.
Which is crazy. You guys are actually doing this handmade, hand-rolled, in a wood-fired oven. Insane.
Exactly. It gives it that nice smokiness that complements the sweetness of the dough and the honey water. That's sesame. Just gotta do it.
Want to talk about some of the spread schmears, the stuff you're putting on the bagels?
Sure.
So what am I looking at? So what is in a smoked cured meat?
It's not smoked, but it's technically meat. It's fish. It's beet-cured salmon. We actually cover the salmon loin in shredded beet and horseradish. You know,
I mean, it almost looks like ham. I mean, it has like a hammy look to it.
but we wanted to have a fish product that was like really unique to us. It
It
does.
smells like fish. Smells like
Yeah, it smells. It's really oily and fishy, like, you know, like it's really old school, but new school. It's really old school but new school. So this is, you know, these are kind of accoutrement that you would never see in a bagel store. This is watermelon radish. I love it. It's crunchy. It's like great foil for the sweetness of the bagels and for the creaminess of the cream cheese, the fattiness of the fish. This is Tobacco cream cheese. Flying Fish Roe is the lowest on the caviar totem pole. And it's funny, people walk up and they say, "Oh, is that strawberry cream cheese?" And you know, and I know there's a Jew in a cemetery in a grave rolling over every time someone orders cream cheese, strawberry cream cheese on a chocolate chip bagel or a blueberry bagel. Like, you know, it kind of like that was.
What is that?
You know, we said, you know, we're not doing cinnamon raisin bagels here because it's really just not. That's not what we are.
Right. How cool is this?
This is unbelievably cool. For me, to see this, the retired Russ, the third generation Russ, it was 100 years in coming, this place. People always came in the store and said, "Hey Mark, where can I sit down and eat your food?" And the only option we had later on in the game was the benches out front.
I was going to say on Houston Street.
But the planets have lined up, the neighborhood has changed. They're two very bright people. Fortunately, they're Russes, my daughter and my nephew, that run this place, and were able to really do what should have been done and do it in the right way.
So we're downstairs, and I mean, what more classic deli than a knish?
That's right.
And then, it's funny, I mean, without Jonas Schimmel around on House, I don't know where you get good knishes anymore. If they make good knishes anymore, I don't know.
So that definitely came up in our discussions developing this menu is, you know, where can you find a really good knish anymore? And it took us quite a while, several weeks to figure this out, but it's oil based. So it's just flour, oil, salt, pepper, a little bit of baking powder, and a little bit of water. It's a really, if you see it here, it's almost like a wet pasta dough.
It's a fair amount of oil in this.
It's very
oily dough.
If you really look at it right there, it's very oily.
Look at it. The oil comes on my skin.
Yep.
It's just weeping oil.
Yep. Very simple though. No yeast. No. You know.
So the leavening's baking soda, baking powder.
That's right. Yeah. And that's it. We just the filling is just potatoes and some lightly caramelized onions. And you know, we tried some more complex steps and maneuvers, and through some technique, you can't keep it simple.
Yeah.
And so the end result, raw, is going to be roughly these guys right here.
Wow, and it's really a delicate soft dough.
Yeah, very soft. We actually put them in the refrigerator to firm up the dough before we bake them.
How do you serve them? What goes on the plate when you serve them?
2 of these on a small plate with, we do a mixture of mustard here, which is Dijon, whole grain, and spicy brown.
Steamy coming out, dough on the outside. I mean,
and not too thick of a crust either.
Look how thin that crust is. Look at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's like paper thin. Classic belly-filling food that back in the day when...
And the onions are there just to kind of give it a little bite.
Yeah.
A little tartness.
Super. Super simple, super peasant food. Classic.
Filling.
Next we're going to do latkes.
Latkes. You want a good amount of oil.
It took me a while to really come to appreciate that actually being part of a 100-year-old legacy is a rarity, and that it actually gave me so many creative and intellectual challenges. How do you take this 100-year-old tradition and keep it vibrant, keep it contemporary? How do you grow something, a business like that, without ruining the things that make it so special and great?
Yep. I mean, that's kind of like new school, smart, brunch, delicious. Salmon roe, creme fraiche. This is how I grew up eating latkes.
That's the way it is.
It's like classic. This is Deli 101. Don't mess with it stuff.
Appetizing.
Appetizing. Appetizing 101. That's true.
I gotta get in there too.
Dig in, dude.
That's as good as it gets right there.
No, that's so bloody good. You gotta like fish. This is what Grandpa sold out of a pushcart on Orchard Street back in the day. This is where it all started. I hear it's an old tradition, but the first time I had herring and a shot of vodka was at a little hole in the wall in the Jewish quarter of Krakow a few years back. I won't finish it in one shot. Now I don't have to dust off my passport or go any further than Orchard Street, just north of Delancey. God, that's good. Folks, this may be habit forming.
So, I came to the business. I think he came back a couple years after, and we're young and interested in developing the idea of Russ Daughters, and we were like, how can we expand this in the right way? And we thought, what better thing to do than have a place where people can sit down and eat the food that we sell, and then we can curate their experience of eating this food. You want to eat caviar?
I'm gonna eat. Let's you and I. Let's do this together. So what is this? What is in this tin here? What are we looking at?
This is a American transmontanus, which is a white sturgeon from Sacramento River, and is one of my favorites that we sell.
Oh. Damn. Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with that. So this is called the Lower East Side on the menu?
Yeah, the Lower East Side. It's take on a classic, the South Side, the East Side, the West Side. So since Russ Daughters is a business that started on the Lower East Side, we really wanted to take a claim to that. So instead of using mint, we are adding cucumber and dill into a pretty classic gin sour recipe. I'm just gonna do a quick little muddle on it, and then we're gonna grab a pinch of fresh picked dill. Dill is one of my favorite spices. I know there's that constant war between cilantro and dill.
I didn't know that existed. But
oh, really?
Not in my world. I love them both.
I thought there was like a genetic sort of
is there?
thing. Yeah,
like people liking it or don't liking it?
Yeah, some people have an aversion to cilantro, and some people have an aversion to dill.
I'm not one of those people.
I've always been a dill girl.
2.5?
Actually, just 2.
2, okay.
Yeah.
2 ounces of gin, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So a good beginner's drink for me.
Just gonna double strain it.
Yeah, because you muddled a bunch of stuff in there.
Just gonna go ahead and remind you.
And to release the esters, bruise it slightly?
The esters, the oils of any fresh herb, yeah, just so that you get it right on the nose.
Gosh, that's really good. That's really good.
For a Negroni lover, I think taking someone to more of a shaken drink is always...
No, but it's really interesting. It's really clean, it's really crisp. Cucumber really gives it an element. The dill's there. Great drink. Thanks for coming in. Take care.
You too. Ba-dum-bum.